Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel I guess. My name's Mez and I'm currently in my second year of medicine at Barts in London. Firstly, thank you for all the love on the previous videos. I really enjoyed making them last year, and hopefully 2023 is the year where I get into probably making more scheduled attempts at making content, but now I have some really exciting things planned and currently in the edit, but bear with me as suddenly loads of deadlines have crept up. But yeah, this video kind of wanted to talk about my experience doing my Barts interview, because I know a couple of kids that I mentor, their interviews coming up next week and in the following weeks, which is really exciting. And I think the last kind of video that went out about Barts interviews that I remember watching, and I'll link it at the top here, is by the lovely Journey to Med girls, Liddy and Hazal. They're currently in their 4th year of medicine, which is crazy to think that I was watching them when they were in like their 2nd year. So no, I really look up to them, and their video really helped me. But they kind of did their videos when the interviews were in person, so it was a little bit different, as my cohort in 2021, which was 2 years ago now, they started the whole online interview system. So I wanted to kind of talk through my experiences, any tips I have I guess, and kind of how I went about doing things. So yeah, let me know if this is something you guys want more of. I'm more than happy to take suggestions. And yeah, okay, so to start off with my interview offer, so the email came through, I can't remember the exact date, I probably should check that, but I remember it being the last week of school before the Christmas holidays, and this was like I think 3 days before end. And I just remember being in chemistry, and a couple of other girls in my class had also applied to Barts, and we all got the email at the same time, which is really exciting finally, because Bart was the first uni that got back to me. So that was really fun, kind of, you know, finally seeing all the hard work pay off that we've been doing over the last couple of months. And then the interview date, I think for Barts, ranges between mid-Jan to mid-Feb. And don't worry if yours is like towards the end or towards the beginning. The fact that you've got one is incredible, so definitely well done. I thought my year was really competitive to get an offer, but you guys seem to just keep increasing the interest into medicine, which is really exciting. So but that inevitably means the competition also increases. But again, you know, getting an interview offer is kind of like almost being there halfway, I guess. So my interview was online on Zoom, yes, on Zoom, but I'm sure everyone's quite well adapted now to using Zoom and Teams and stuff like that. And my interview personally, I think was, I want to say like 2nd of February, so around the middle of their interview season. And the kind of format, I guess, was you log on to your Zoom, of course, and you join the link at the time given. Now, I didn't realise that we were not going to go straight into the interview, because the other med school interviews that I had online, you just log on and then the panels all might start straight away, which is a bit daunting. So I like how Barts, we didn't start straight away. I wasn't expecting to, you know, be in the main Zoom room with all the people who were being interviewed at that time. It was kind of there to mimic, I guess, what would happen if it was an in-person, where everyone in that group would get briefed all at once at the beginning before you go off to your individual panels, which I thought was really lovely. The admissions tutor who did the briefing for about 2 to 3 minutes, she was so lovely. I remember feeling really relaxed after speaking with her. And yeah, so then we got put into breakout rooms with a current medical student who's an ambassador of Barts in London. And this isn't part of the interview at all. It's kind of, you get 5 minutes while I guess everyone else is setting up behind the scenes to just check in with you, see you okay, again mimicking the kind of waiting room vibe, and there'll be people walking around and you can talk to them. I remember the guy I had, I can't remember like his name or anything, but he wasn't that talkative, so hopefully you guys get someone who's really lovely, and I'm pretty sure they're being paid to be there, so make sure they're getting their job done. And feel free to ask them anything. It's really for you guys to feel a little bit more relaxed, and so you can answer the questions in the panel to like your best possible potential. So I asked things like, how did you find the interview, like did you do anything for nerves and stuff like that. But yeah, make the most of the 5 minutes because it does go really quickly. So then after you're done talking with that medical student, another kind of student ambassador, medical student person takes you into the main interview room, which is just, they automatically move you in on the Zoom. And yeah, so then it turns into the main panel. So for me, I had 3 people on my panel, but for people in 2023 entry, it might be 2. Again, anything I say here is just based on what I experienced, so it's just one person's opinion out of loads. So please do make sure you read the emails and all the info you've given, because they might have updated it since I've done my interview. But I can say on the whole, the vibe was really good. Like just not even med school interviews, but job interviews and scholarship interviews that I've had, like that has been the best one today. I didn't feel uncomfortable at all or thrown by any of the questions. It was really lovely, and I came out of it honestly smiling and thinking, knowing that I've like smashed this, but if I get an offer, I'm definitely putting Barts as my firm. Definitely played into my decision of how I wanted to rank my uni choices and where I kind of wanted to go. But yeah, so the panel consisted of 3 people. One was, I think they were a lecturer or professor who ended up being one of the module leads for first year. Can't remember which one it was now, but they were super sweet. And the second one was a clinician or a current, I don't know if he was practicing, but he said he was the head of psychiatry in his little Zoom label. And this made me really scared, because I kind of thought, oh, they're gonna really be out to get me, because in my personal statement, which I'll talk about in a bit, I mentioned that the EPQ I wrote was on a rare type of bipolar disorder, so obviously that's right down a psychiatrist's lane. So I was kind of mentally preparing myself to be absolutely grilled by this guy. But stay tuned to the rest of the video to see what happens. And then the third person was a medical student, not the one you spoke to, but the one who kind of brought you to the panel. And I think that's quite nice. I don't know any other uni, to be honest, that has a medical student who's on the panel of the actual interview. I don't know what kind of role they play within the marking and stuff, but it's just nice to know that someone who's actually been through what you guys are going through right now is on that side of the panel. And it's kind of nice to know that they can kind of relate to you a bit. So the first part of the panel, it was in total 20 minutes, and you guys know, if you're been invited to interview at Barts 2 weeks before your interview date, you should be getting sent an article to read and be prepared to discuss in the interview. Now, this does kind of throw a lot of people, because again, I don't know any other uni that asks you to prepare something. I think some unis might ask you to give a 1-minute presentation, but none that I've heard of so far ask you to do some wider reading on a piece of information and be prepared to discuss it. So that's quite exciting, I think. For aspiring medics, a lot of you guys dumped the essay subjects back at GCSE, but don't worry, because they're not assessing your ability to kind of do the whole English literature analysis thing. It will be a medical based article. I don't know if I'm allowed to say my one, but just to the general kind of thing. Obviously in 2021, the only thing in the news then was COVID. So it will be very topical on kind of the last couple of months. So as of the recording date, today being January 13th, 2023, the current junior doctor vote to strike, I think, is definitely very topical, and who knows what the outcome will be. So definitely keep an eye on stuff like that. Hot topics just in general, I think, is always a good thing to be aware of, just in stations as well, and MMIs and panel interviews, asking like, what have you read recently. I think I might make a whole other video on like dissecting the articles and kind of how I went about doing it, so hopefully it comes out soon after this one, but again, no promises. But yeah, just the article in general, I'd say was super chill discussion, for me at least, because I quite like writing and medical journalism, so I found that quite interesting, pulling out different ideas. My article was a little heavy on the ethical side of like vaccinations and stuff, so you know, linking pillars and confidentiality, competence, and all of those like buzzwords that you guys probably have done to death by now, I think are definitely things to be thinking of while discussing the article. Just generally things like, you know, who the author is, what kind of audience was this written for. Literally, like, I remember treating it as something like a history GCSE source of like assessing, you know, where this information's come from, reliability and things like that. And so in the actual interview, it was quite open, to be honest. The questions, it was things like, tell me about the article. Did you find anything interesting? Did something jump out to you in particular? They really left it open for you to kind of drive the conversation and be confident in the topic you want to talk about. So do prepare for it, like at least read it and annotate it. I printed mine out, scribbled all over it. If you want, download it onto an iPad, whatever you feel works for you, but definitely go to town and try and come up with as many different opinions as you can. Yeah, so that's just the article summarised. It was only about 5 to 7 minutes, so not long at all. Just kind of seeing the discussion of your ideas. And yeah, when I do make that video about the article in particular, I'll link it at the top somewhere. Yeah, so the next part of the interview was the kind of really bog standard questions, the ones that you guys again have probably done to death, you know, the why medicine and skills questions like leadership, teamwork, and all of those what make a good doctor traits. One thing I will say is definitely read your personal statement. Coming back to like my experience, the guy who was the head of psychiatry, he literally said, I have your personal statement on my screen right now. So they do have access to it. They might not have read it fully before you come up for the interview, but they'll definitely be picking things out of it, so use that to your advantage. Definitely, again, that's something you can prepare for and you have a little bit more control over. So I kind of treated it as, you know, I had my personal statement and I looked at it trying to think of what the interviewer would want to ask for me for each paragraph, each line. Could I elaborate on this any further, bring in anything that I've learned in particular, and thinking about reflection. I think a good thing that really did help was, as year 13s at the time, we organised mock interviews for the year 12s. So if you have the means and the time to do that, I think that would be really good fun, not only for the year 12s, helping to learn and experience, you know, what med school mock interviews are like, but also for you guys to sit on the other side of the panel and kind of see, oh, this is what they actually want in a mark scheme and what a good answer looks like. So yeah, would definitely recommend always thinking about it from what they want. They always ask in the back of their minds, you know, did this student hit all of these points? Always try and infer kind of, what do they actually want from me from this question? Because sometimes they can just be so random. So always have that in the back of your mind, ticking away when you like hear the first question, and try and think about how to answer it. So some questions in particular that I remember being asked are, again, really standard questions that can come up in literally any interview, just swapping out barts for whatever med school that's interviewing you. But definitely, why do you want to come to our medical school in particular? And there's one thing to note, that I have said barts throughout the entire video, not Queen Mary. Not that there's anything wrong with QM, but Barts does take pride in its heritage of being like the oldest medical school in the UK, and kind of we have our own separate campus, so there's no beef as such. It's just a friendly kind of rivalry, I guess, but we're very much interlinked. We have a lot of our anatomy sessions on their campus as well, so we do share spaces. But I would recommend, if you're addressing the uni, do stick to using barts or barts in the London, BL, things like that. And so coming back to, you know, why this university in particular, there's a broad range of things you can talk about, but it's important to just give it a little bit more than what you read off the website. So yes, PBL, that's great. Why does that help you thrive as a student? Does it suit your learning style? Tell me how. Tell me how, you know, it mimics what an MDT is going to look like when you're actually a junior doctor, you know, working in a group and that kind of thing. And again, early clinical contact, again, a big seller for BARTs. And when they say early clinical contact, they mean it. It's not like some unis who say early clinical contact and then you only see a patient like once a year, or you only step foot in a hospital in the last week of year 2. For BARTs, I remember like in my first year, in the first week, literally on the Thursday, I think we had like a GP placement. So they really, you know, some people might say push you in at the deep end, but communication skills and things like that is not something you can just pick up off a textbook. You need to have that kind of development already, and that's why they interview you guys, to see who has a potential to really thrive in the way that we at that medical school, whichever one you're interviewing at, can help you, you know, grow as a future doctor and that kind of thing. I'd say I'm also thinking about both prosection and dissection. So if you guys don't know what they are, it might be worth looking it up, but just to summarize briefly, prosection is when the parts of the cadaver or the body are kind of like cut up for you, and the demonstrators are, I guess, teaching you about it. And that's the main way we learn anatomy in normal like curriculum, which I honestly prefer, because I feel like if we were just taught to dissect from the offbeat, I think it'd be very difficult to try and, you know, not accidentally cut through a nerve or artery that you're supposed to be studying. So from a learning perspective, I think using prosection is really beneficial. However, BARTS also does offer dissection, and there's these things called SSEs, which stand for student selected components, where you can take 2-week blocks in each year to kind of go off timetable and choose something that you're interested in. A lot of people who are into a particular specialty usually go and shadow, you know, a doctor that they're interested in working with, and our anatomy department are really lovely, and they always organise dissection sessions for us. So in first year we had the choice of doing either upper or lower limb, and in second year I did a thorax dissection, and it was really cool. We got to use like a bit gory but like rib cutters and bone saws to like literally open up the chest, which I didn't think we were going to be allowed to do, but then they got them out and was like, yeah, no, you guys are going to do it, go and plug it in. So definitely best of both worlds. You get that aspects of teaching and learning, but also if you guys are interested in surgery and the use of tools, that's definitely on offer as well. So again, another big selling point. I would say also the pastoral support at BARTS, I personally have found really helpful. Again, this will differ from student to student, but BARTS really does care about their students. I know half the time it may not seem like that, but you know, we get Wednesday afternoons off to do society stuff. So if you guys are into your sports, there'll be usually practices then, or like drama and music rehearsals. Even like I'm part of a cultural society, Bangladesh society, so some of our events are there, because you know that this time we have off to relax and take away from studying. Yes, in real life normally it's just used for catching up for things, or if you need a bit of money, they're more than happy for you to get a part-time job. They're really supportive in that aspect. And the student support team is really good too. You know, they're just email away with whatever worries. They always have drop-in sessions, and it is very niche, but recently they've started the use of these VR, virtual reality headsets, and in both pastoral sense of using it as, and they like piloted this like meditation app, which was really cool. I had a go at it, and you know, it's just nice to not be able to think about anything else but just focusing on like one thing for the half an hour. And so they've had really good feedback from that, and are trying to instate like a little pod, I guess, in a library where when you're doing a really hard study session, you can go and book it for half an hour and just take your mind off studying and academics and just medicine in general, and then feel back refreshed rather than, you know, scrolling on your phone or something. And also on the flip side, use of VR in anatomy, like in our dissection. Again, it was kind of a pilot study, I guess, to see whether the use of VR in anatomy would be helpful, and it was a bit tricky to use at first, but it was so cool. You like put the machine on and you literally see the skeleton in front of you, and you like put your arm out and you can pick the bone, and like it'll be labeled, and you can add the muscles and the nerves, and like you can literally go inside the body and see where everything intersects, which is super cool, and we were all really pleased with that. And so hopefully they'll instate that for you guys this time next year. When you're in first year, you'll have that as a plus to your pro sections in anatomy sessions. So again, they're very big on feedback and incorporating student ideas, which is, you know, you want that in a medical school, I guess. What the medical student asked me on the panel is like along the lines of extracurriculars, like what I would bring to Barts personally. I think you can definitely take this down whatever route you want, whether you've done an extracurricular or even if you don't really have one. It doesn't hurt to just, I think the best place to look up society stuff is really Instagram. You can go on the website, but you know, everyone uses social media these days. You can just type in BL societies, I think is the page, and go to the following, have a scroll, see any kind of society you like. There's both clubs, like social aspect things, but also academic societies for each of the specialties, cultural societies. And even if you have something that's not a society, you can always say, you know, I'd really love to start this up. I've seen this particular event, which I know this society does, so that would be really nice to, you know, lead and help create a better community at Barts. One thing I mentioned was RAG Week, which I found on the website. I don't know where I found it, but RAG Week stands for Raise and Give, and it's kind of the Barts' charity week, which is, I think, happening this week, which is really cool. And so I kind of led that question by saying how I was a charity prefect at school, and you know, these are the kind of events we've coordinated, and I know at Barts that they're really big on fundraising for different charities, and I'd be really keen to get behind some of the projects they're running. So all it takes is a little bit of research, a little bit of digging, and kind of showing how the things that they do at that medical school, and this applies to any of them, really links to the skills you've developed. Like making those links is what really kind of elevates your answer. Then that was literally it. Like there was no kind of curveball questions. I guess the curveball aspect is the article essentially, but as long as you prepare for that and read it and come up with your thoughts, I think that's more than enough. And just answering in a confident, calm way. It's not meant to be scary at all. I think a lot of people, I was going to say deep it too much, but of course it's deep. You want to pass the interview and do your best, but I kind of, mindset is really important in interviews. It's having that, I know it sounds a bit wishy-washy, but self-belief that, you know, you're going to do really well in this because you put in the work, you put in the prep time, and thinking kind of, you know, being grateful for the opportunity rather than seeing it as this big scary pressurizing thing. Thinking of, oh my god, these, you know, academic professors and leaders, world leading experts in their fields want to talk to me and know about my experiences and why I'll be a good future medical student. Like, I'm not going to waste that opportunity by being nervous. I want to, you know, make the most of it. So kind of that shift in mindset helped me to calm down. And I mean, this is a bit weird and maybe I should go to some kind of therapy, but I kind of spoke about myself in the interview as like the best version of myself. So it wasn't really talking about me, but a version of Mez, I guess, that I wanted to present as the ideal medical student. And that again took the pressure off it a little bit, because like if I told you to, you know, tell me all the good things about your best friend, you wouldn't hesitate. But then when it comes to yourself, it's a little bit more cringe, I guess. It's kind of, I don't even know what it's called, like depersonalizing yourself from it. Maybe that's a thing that I've just made up, but that's, I guess, a coping mechanism that helped me to deal with the nerves when like talking about myself and things like that. And then it was done. It was over in 20 minutes, which it felt like 5, honestly. It went super quick. And honestly, when I say the vibe was really good, it was so good. I think the thing that really kind of spun it for me was the guy who was like, I thought was going to grill my personal statement. I remember him literally saying to me, "Oh, I see you've written about this EPQ and like a bipolar disorder." And I was like, okay, here we go, let me try and remember some kind of statistics. And he just goes, "Oh, that's really interesting, well done," and then just asked a completely different question. So I was really shocked by that. I had to double take and be like, what just happened? Did they just compliment me in an interview? Because normally you go in there with the mindset of this is going to be super intense and they're going to grill me and I'm going to come out crying, but it doesn't have to be like that. I think going back to another thing I forgot to mention, you know, the why barts also location is a really, really big thing. They're very much proud of their location, not only London but East London in particular, thinking about the area they're in. Why is that such a good resource for you as a future medical student and future clinician? You know, the diversity in patient group, the amount of different diseases that you'll probably never find in that much of a concentration anywhere else. It's a great place to not only learn and treat diseases, but also if you guys are interested in research, I'm pretty sure there's some new project going on every day in the labs, so it's definitely a growing resource. And we have some of the best hospitals in, I want to say, the whole of UK. The Royal London, pretty sure it's Europe's greatest trauma centre, Europe's greatest trauma centre, but don't quote me on that, go and fact check. And just St. Bart's is so famous and so beautiful, so yeah, considering like the location and things like that might be a good shout as well. But yeah, I think that just kind of sums up my whole interview. They ask about the article, ask some more general questions, and then sum it up. I'll put a picture of my interview feedback that I received, like here, I guess, if I know how to do that. But I received this, so I received my offer from Bart after the interview around, I want to say like 8th of March, or like, it was funny because all my interviews were online during the second lockdown, and then we went back to school in March, and it was literally the first day back. I came home, I got the email, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I think I cried, I can't remember. That really felt very emotional, like it actually worked, like this is like, you know, my dreams come true and that kind of thing. And this feedback, I think I asked for it, I can't remember when, I think in around May or something, but there's an email that is available to request your feedback. I think you just have to send over a scan of your passport and like the ID number you're given as part of your interview thing, and they sent it over I think within a day. So Bart's admin team is very, very good, very on it, not mentioning other names for other unis that have questionable admin, but yeah, no, it was really, really lovely, and it kind of shows how they kind of mark each of the station or questions, I guess, and they give you kind of an overall vibe comment, I guess, global comment, which is quite similar to how we're marked in OSCEs at medical school. But yeah, no, definitely when I say Bart's was like the best interview ever, I think that kind of really did sell it to me that, you know, this is my calling, I guess. That kind of sounds it, making it a bit more deeper than it needs to be, but I really, really enjoyed my interview, and I hope all of your guys' interview goes too, and that this was a little bit helpful in uncovering, you know, what goes down in an online medical school interview. But yeah, feel free, leave any comments, I'll hopefully be answering them soon, and we'll just like DM me on Instagram. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. I will be making, I've decided now finally, the impulsivity has continued a little bit longer. I'm going to do another video on how I kind of approach the article and went about doing that, so check out that video if you're still a bit struggling with that one. Let me know if you want me to do any more of these. I think, again, the impulsivity was a little bit crazy on this one, but I decided, you know, what better time to do it than now. I think it would be interesting also to do it with maybe other different people, either like my friends. I was thinking of doing it, so, you know, if you're one of them watching this right now, let me know if you want to do that. I think that'll be really, really fun to watch back. But yeah, let me know if this helped. And, you know, we're hitting, I think, 132 now, which is crazy. Like, I remember when I had like 4 subscribers, but you know, road to 1k, I guess, which is cute. But yeah, feel free to subscribe if you want to. It's free, and I'd really appreciate it. But no, thank you for your time, and best of luck with your interviews if you have it.